Hey guys, it's Infinity Break bringing you another video. Today I wanted to sit down and discuss what might we have in store for Elder Scrolls 6 if it's actually set in the Iliac Bay. I'm going to go over maybe gameplay mechanics, certain features that the game might have, maybe the sort of area and cultures that we might have, and just general stuff like that. So enjoy the video. Also, this is going out on New Year's Eve or New Year's Day. I'm going to try and get up as fast as possible if it's New Year's Eve. And if it is New Year's Eve, then Happy New Year's, everybody. I hope you all have a wonderful New Year. And if it's already New Year's Day, same to you. I hope that you had a good New Year's Eve, and I hope that your New Year's is absolutely wonderful. Anyway, on to the video. So what exactly can we expect from Elder Scrolls 6 if it is set in the Iliac Bay? Well, as I've been playing through Daggerfall as of late, I've seen a couple of really cool features that I think would really make a good addition to the game, especially in this day and age with the technology we have and all the different coding and programming that we can achieve. I really think that these little features would actually add some breath of life, I suppose you could say, to the game. Really make it a new experience like Skyrim was all those years ago when we first got it. The first thing I think we can expect from the new Elder Scrolls game is a bigger and more, I suppose you could say, stretched out world map. A very big and very open to exploration kind of map that's just really focused on you kind of going out and finding your own adventure, as well as, kind of having those unique special touches that Bethesda kind of has, with the actually custom created cities, and maybe they'll rebuild Orsinium, and I don't know, port cities and stuff that actually have all these really cool like ships and stuff in them that you might even get to commandeer, but I'll get into that later. Just a really big open world map, and they can achieve it the same way they achieved Daggerfall's map. They can customly create a lot of the unique cities and really important areas that need to be a certain way, like the first dungeon and maybe any story dungeons or anything, and they can move on from the custom creation. And if they can achieve this next part properly, which is the randomly generated dungeons and areas, if they can get that down right this time, because as I played through Daggerfall, I realized that's kind of the only crutch the game has, is its very poorly generated dungeons and such. If they can get that right, then I think Elder Scrolls 6 would be very awesome to explore through, especially considering the fact if you might even consider maybe having a friend pop in for co-op, since they seem to be exploring multiplayer with Fallout 76 right now. And I don't know if many people would enjoy that, but I feel like that would be a cool feature too. It would bring more of a reason for players to kind of go exploring if they can bring just one or two friends along. Not an MMO, we don't want that. Just Elder Scrolls with friends, like a co-op. That's my idea, at least. If you disagree with that, that's fine. I thought that'd be kind of cool. Another thing that we might be able to expect from Elder Scrolls 6, not just in its world, but in its actual transportation. See, in previous games, we were actually able to commandeer boats and carriages, and unlike the previous games that we've gotten in Elder Scrolls Oblivion and Skyrim, we actually seem to be able to already have horses, so why not move up? Why not actually get carriages, real sort of big transportations going down that don't just instantaneously transport us to where we need to go, like a carriage fare or a ship kind of fare or whatever. Instead, we actually own our own carriage, our own ship, and we can actually go out on the ocean or carry a lot of supplies back to the cities and stuff to sell off, like we were able to do in Daggerfall. I mean, that seems pretty cool, right? The idea itself of owning a carriage or a boat is extremely awesome in my opinion. I really like the idea of that, and I really think it would be kind of cool to kind of explore, giving the player more, I guess you could say, not responsibility, but more ability to actually own more stuff to make their character and their playthrough feel just that much more valuable to them, Another feature I think we can look forward to in the next Elder Scrolls game is actually not something that was made a long time ago, but a more recent addition to the actual formula that was the Elder Scrolls. And what I'm talking about, of course, is the companion system. The companion system that is newer, that is in Skyrim, it could use some work. I think we can all agree that the companions were very lackluster. They're just your stereotypical hirelings. There wasn't anything really unique. I think the closest thing we got to unique was Serena, as she actually had her own quest and stuff that was added into the game as one of the main stories that you get with one of the DLCs, Dawnguard. And I think everybody can admit that Serena was a very awesome character to have around. Even if you didn't keep her afterwards, just having her around for that entire adventure, having her talk and all that nonsense, it was actually pretty endearing. And they seem to remember that moving forward, as you were able to get people from Solstheim that had a little bit more personality to them, and I really enjoyed that as well. So maybe if we can get something like that moving forward, a couple of unique companions as well as some hirelings, and maybe even have multiple companions, no more than I think 2 or 3, but like just enough to kind of fill the void, you know, like, because if you can just get a pet in one person, I feel like it's kind of, well, how do I put it? It's kind of like you only feel like you got a small group together. You don't even feel you have a group. You have a pair, and then you got your dog, and that's it. So moving forward, I feel like we need to advance the companion system just a bit more to actually improve upon what we already have. This is another thing I think we could focus on, the combat system and the AI. A lot of characters in Skyrim and even in Oblivion were just kind of empty-minded sort of barbaric bandits or animals just kind of running at you, just attacking you. I feel like we can improve upon that. Maybe install some sort of dodging mechanic like we do with, I don't know what the mod was called, I'll put it on screen if I can remember. But this mod I've installed into Oblivion makes it so that everyone knows how to dodge, people can jump back, there's stuff where they can jump to the side or crouch down, and it actually works. They have these invincibility frames that just kind of, they don't get hit by whatever I'm hitting them with if they dodge at the right moment. And they don't do it too often to the point where it's ridiculous, but it makes combat that much more interesting. And I really like that. I felt like that was a good addition. And what they did with Fallout 4, taking all the mods and stuff from previous games and shoving them into Fallout 4's base game, I think they could do that. Especially with the next Elder Scrolls game, considering how much time they're spending on it currently. And of course, we're going to talk about combat. We should talk about magic. Magic is something that's been kind of weird. It's always different when it comes to the Elder Scrolls. The only game that seems to get it, you know, kind of the same is Arena and Daggerfall. And that's because they had so little time in between development, and they didn't feel like they needed to change the system too much. I feel like Skyrim has changed it in a really good way to where you can use a melee weapon and magic, but Oblivion I feel kind of has the best. You summoning magic in out of nowhere when you're using a two-handed weapon is kind of nice. Because in the latest games, you can't be a giant warrior with a giant sword, or, you know, you can't use both a two-handed weapon and magic. You had to use a one-handed weapon and magic, which was cool if you were doing a spell sword kind of thing. But if you're doing like a straight-up battle mage thing where it's like, I want to use a giant axe and be an orc but also use magic, and it just doesn't work. It kind of sucks, honestly. I feel like if you're able to summon some kind of magic in from the sidelines when you're holding a big sword or an axe or whatever, it'd be kind of nice just to throw a fireball, but not be able to attack in that same moment like you were able to do in Oblivion. And maybe even on top of that, summon in sort of like magic without weapons in your hands to be a little bit more effective against enemies, maybe. Because you think about it, with a two-handed weapon, you have to sacrifice one of your hands and kind of do an offhand attack instead of having both hands and performing really cool spells, you know? Maybe only certain spells will work with that. Just an idea. And as for character creation, I think that Skyrim kind of got it better, and maybe we can have kind of a blend of Skyrim's character creation and Fallout 4's character creation, because you could create anything with Fallout 4's character creation. It was amazing how they did it. And I like that. As for the whole characters talking, I'll be honest with you guys, I hated that feature in Fallout 4. As soon as I got Fallout 4 on the PC, I modded that out. I hated that so much. It took away from your character, because you had one static voice, and that was it. I feel like the best thing and the easiest thing to do is remove that. If you don't, you need to give us multiple voice options. We can't just have one. Because I don't care what what voice my orc character has. Because, like, if it's an orc, it's going to sound like an orc. I expect it to. But if it's a human, I kind of want it to sound like me. So there's that disconnect there. And that's one of the things I think Fallout 4 did wrong. But Skyrim did it right because it didn't have that. It was just oh, your character said these words that popped up on screen, which is kind of nice. Moving away from the gameplay mechanics and what we could expect transportation-wise and all that, I'm moving into the setting and the story. The story, I may make a separate video on speculations for what I could see for the story. For the most part, though, if I'm going to talk about that right now, I know it's going to involve the Thalmor. The Thalmor have become more and more of a threat as time has gone on. In Oblivion, they were mentioning how they were starting to become an issue, and then in between Oblivion and Skyrim, they took over, you know, a good portion of Tamriel. And by the time of Skyrim, they're already starting civil wars and stuff in human provinces. So I mean, I only feel like they're going to get worse as time goes on, and they're definitely going to be a center point. If they aren't and they move away from it, I'm going to be disappointed because there's some potential there. I feel like with the Iliac Bay being part of Hammerfell, or Hammerfell being part of the Iliac Bay, I should say, Hammerfell is on very thin ice with the Thalmor. The Thalmor tried to invade them, and that Redguards fought them off because they're that badass. And the point is that, like, they're kind of, like, frustrated with them. Like, we lost all these good men to you, or good elves, I should say, and we couldn't even take their home. So now they're kind of just biding their time, waiting for the Redguards to soften up, let their guard down, and go through again with an even bigger strategy. And I hope that the Redguards aren't taken over by the time we see Elder Scrolls 6, because they could do a time skip for all I know, and everything could be taken over by the Thalmor, and I really don't want that to happen. But it would be interesting to see how they affect the whole area of the Iliac Bay, if it is set there, because we get to see how it's affecting High Rock, and maybe High Rock is more subservient to the Thalmor, because maybe they don't care, they just like to live their political-fueled life of drama and castles and medieval themes and all that, and instead of worrying about, you know, like their gods and stuff, they're more worried about their money and their, you know, economy and how who's marrying who and all this good stuff. And it would be cool to see that versus the really anti-Thalmor Redguards, which I would probably side with at that point. I think for the first time in a long time, I'd be like, yeah, I'm with the Redguards, you know, of all people, because they never are a central focal point in the story, except for the spin-off Redguard, but that's another story altogether. As for the world at this point, I'm not sure what they're going to do to wrap the Civil War storyline. They might go into detail, or they might ignore it altogether. They might be like, yeah, there was a civil war in Skyrim, but they might not even tell us who won, which I would be kind of annoyed with. Personally, I'm more of an Imperial person. I don't care if you're Stormcloak or Imperial, it's a game. But I'm more of the Imperial, and only for logical reasons. I feel like High Rock and the Empire and all this other stuff could be bending their knee to the sort of the Thalmor, like I said. And again, with the Redguards and Hammerfell and all that, could represent more of a Skyrim and all that other nonsense of how they're kind of uneasy with how things are going and how they're taking over everything. I think it being set in the Iliac Bay is going to be interesting, because we're going to get, like I said in my theory video, a mix of different cultures. We get the Bretons, we get the Redguards, and we get possibly, and this would be a smart move, I keep saying it, if they rebuild Orsinium, we get a whole settlement of the orcs put in the game. And I don't know, I feel like that would be interesting. And maybe they could even kind of spread out away from the Iliac Bay, like that could be the center, the Iliac Bay, but they could kind of spread outward. Maybe more towards Skyrim. Maybe we could get like a DLC or two where we can go back to Skyrim and help solve some stuff or whatever. Or maybe we can go into, I don't know, I'm just putting out stuff. We can go more into Hammerfell, we could go more into Cyrodiil. It's all up in the air. And let's not forget that dragons have returned, and the dragons have come back. And they exist, so maybe the Skyrim storyline will line up with that. Maybe some of the dragons will have migrated over into the Iliac Bay area. Maybe we'll get to see them. As for other creatures, I'm not entirely sure. I know werewolves, wereboars, and stuff were in Daggerfall. I know we saw a lot of were creatures, and we saw a lot of, you know, different things. We might get a return of the infamous flying giant bats and all that. We might get to see more creatures and, you know, more unique, I suppose you could say, enemies, because there were a lot of cool enemies in Elder Scrolls 1 and in Elder Scrolls 2 that they could just bring back for nostalgia's sake. Nostalgia's sake, I apologize. But yeah, that's really all I can really think about when it comes to the setting. I know we're going to get a mixture of different architectures. Like I said, High Rock is more of a medieval kind of themed thing, and Hammerfell is more of a desert kind of Arabian kind of theme going on, with its vast kingdoms and stuff that are more reminiscent of, like I said, more Middle Eastern kind of culture. And I'm looking forward to that. And who knows, the orcs could bring more of a Skyrim-esque kind of barbarian kind of feel going on up in the mountains. And these different areas where it's snow and cold and forest and medieval towns and all that nonsense, where they have port cities, and then you've got the Arabian, Middle Eastern kind of feel going on with the Red Guards. It would be a wonderful mix of everything when it comes to cultures and different architecture and such. And I don't know, I just feel like it'd be pretty cool, honestly. Anyway guys, that's all I really have for this video. There's not much more to really discuss. That's everything I could possibly think of. If you have some ideas, I would love to hear them down in the comment section. Let me know what you think. I like to get these discussions going. Ever since my theory video went up, I like hearing all your guys' different opinions. Maybe I could talk to you about what's going on. Anyway, that's it for this video. I look forward to making more videos for you guys as I'm going into this new year. I hope that you guys enjoyed this. This has been Infinity Break, reminding you guys always to say it with me now: eat well, play well, and live well. Always remember to go out there, do your best, and strive to break infinity. This has been an Infinity Break, telling you guys to have a wonderful New Year's.